This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Weaver. I'm the VP of Services at NSA. I'd like to welcome everybody to our session number 55 in our professional services series by NSA. This particular webinar is being produced and presented by Web Presented, Mr. James Gertis, who's the president of Web Presented. And this one happens to be on a very hot topic, OpenAI with Chat GPT. And I will just mention that we will have a Q&A towards the end, so please make sure you enter your questions into the chat box. And I would ask that you ensure that you guys stay muted throughout the session today. So James, very excited about this session with you today, my friend. Welcome.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. At least good afternoon, everyone here on the East Coast. My name is James Gertis, like Brian mentioned. I'm the president and founder of Web Presented. And for the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to take you on a journey into how we as a company, Web Presented, have used OpenAI and Chat GPT, as well as our customers, who are all distributors, are using it to completely change how they do their sales strategies within wholesale distribution. So after I've done a brief introduction to myself, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing, Web Presented, in terms of sales processes and changes within distribution. Then I'm going to dive into AI, and specifically generative AI. Generative AI is a catch-all term for content that's created by technologies such as ChatGPT and OpenAI. And as Brian mentioned, I'm going to leave some time at the end for questions. So if you do have questions as I go, please do feel free to enter those questions into the chat. Brian's going to be monitoring that chat, and he's going to be reading those questions alive at the end of the session. So very quickly about myself. You might have detected, although I live in Columbus, Ohio, I was born and raised in the United Kingdom. I've spent the last 20 plus years working with distribution focused software. I was spent 5 years working as a software architect at Infor, working on early Cloud Suite prototypes, as well as Next Trend, A+, all of SXE, several of those technologies that are going to be familiar with you guys on the call. After leaving Infor, I founded Web Presented. And we started out as a consulting firm working with distributors, helping them to understand leverage technology. And we soon became, we soon built a CRM platform, which has evolved continually, including the use of a lot of AI now. And it's now the leading software platform, CRM platform for distributors. In my spare time, you'll see here, I coach soccer, and actually last couple of years was fortunate enough to lead this high school team that I coach to back-to-back state championships here in Ohio. So if you hear any Ted Lasso references, you'll know why. So let's talk a little bit about Web Presented. Who are we, and why am I qualified to talk on AI as it comes to use in sales by distributors? Well, Web Presented is number one CRM platform exclusively for wholesale distributors. Number one in terms of usage, number one in terms of adoption rate, number one in terms of customer satisfaction. We have many customers on Infor ERP products, over 10,000 end users that are running on a Cloud Suite or SXE or Infor ERP backend. And for the last 3 years, we've been in America's fastest growing Inc. 5000 private companies in the USA. As I mentioned before, not only do we extensively use artificial intelligence in our platform, but we're also pioneering AI for CRM as it comes to generative AI and the creation of content using ChatGPT and using OpenAI. So let's talk a little bit about sales, and I'm going to jump straight in. And this is our starting point. So you all have sales teams. You all have those sales teams that are pretty overworked when it comes to distribution, and they have a lot of tasks to do on any given day. So a typical day in the life of outside sales consists of all of these different areas of channels of work, or work streams, if you like. There's both prospecting new business, maintaining relationships, managing price, margins, etc. And the biggest challenge for a sales rep is what you see in the middle. What do I need to do today? And what do I need to do first? A salesperson's currency is the number of hours in the day. So how do we make the best value from that currency and come up with a prescriptive plan using artificial intelligence to help salespeople do better at what they do? So let's talk a little bit about why this is important to us. As you can see here from this pie chart, a typical distributor, based on research from Selling Power, a salesperson within that organization only spends 41% of their time actually selling. The rest of the time is spent either administrative tasks, generating research, sales training calls, etc. So 41% of their time. And sales is the number one biggest expense for a distributor. So, for example, if we increased the amount of time spent selling by a salesperson to 80%, if we double that time, we can actually effectively double the efficiency and double the output of the expense that we put onto the sales team. Not only that, but outside sales team that constitutes a lot of your guys' staff is 40 to 90% more expensive than inside sales team. So any given sales call costs between $90 and $308. In times right now, especially economically, where there's a squeeze all around, it's critical that we get the most value out of our outside sales teams. So how do outside sales teams actually work? What makes it different in distribution from everything else? Well, first of all, there's some unique challenges in distribution. For example, the seasonality, the technical consulting level that salespeople need, that requires ramp-up time, that requires best practices, longer sales cycles that require organization and staged follow-up. Relationship-based sales that we're never going to do away with. It's our wholehearted belief that AI will not replace an outside salesperson, at least not for many, many years to come. And of course, the diverse base of customers, whether it be the end users, the redistributors, large organizations, or smaller contractor type customers. So we've got these unique challenges. But in addition to that, there's global macro trends going on within sales teams in distribution. For example, the age of a typical sales representative. You can see here the orange line is the average age of a sales rep across all industries. But the blue line shows us specifically in distribution, there's a significant drop in the average age of sales reps. So where we may be seeing a lot of turnover or churn, a lot of folks in distribution sales are coming to that age of retirement, they're turning over, and there's a new generation coming on board. This new generation is typically younger, a younger demographic made up of primarily digital natives, folks who are more accustomed to using technology and more open to using technology as part of their processes. And also they're new to distribution, so they're going to need onboarding and they're going to need training on how to sell, where those older folks rely on that tacit knowledge that they've built up over the years. And then finally, what's different within sales distribution sales is the skill set that distribution sales folks typically have. And what we've seen from this NAW survey is that typically, while the green line here, salespeople in distribution typically pretty good at maintaining relationships, several different other areas, for example, doing the research, reaching out to decision makers, selling the value and adhering to sales processes, typically are underperforming when it comes to average sales reps. So it's extremely important that we can put in place technology that's going to help bridge some of those skills gaps. So if I go back to that initial list of areas that a salesperson works, how can we use artificial intelligence to boost or make more efficient some of these activities? Well, what I've done next is I've highlighted in red the areas that I'm going to show you today. All of these areas can be improved, made vastly more efficient, more effective using artificial intelligence and specifically using Chat GPT and OpenAI, which I'm going to show you a live demo here shortly. So as we go through this list, as I go through my demonstration today, I'm going to show you all these different areas and the areas with which sales teams can be revolutionized by using generative AI technologies. So let's get started then. Where was the basis? Where was the origin of artificial intelligence? Well, you guys, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Amazon and e-commerce, where you'll see on a website where it says customers who bought XYZ typically also buy ABC, the typical what we call the hammer and the nails approach. If you buy the hammer, you typically also need nails. So let's try to present those opportunities at the same time. Well, this is AI that's been around for a long, long time. And we're going to bring some of this in, but we're going to feed our Chat GPT with this type of information. Not only are we going to do recommendations, we're going to use price optimization, and we're going to use sales forecasting and activity planning as part of this as well. But then if I go one step further, how has AI evolved? Well, with the release of tools such as Siri on your mobile phone, we're now starting to see the ability to understand voice assistants. So I can now speak into mobile devices. The device is going to recognize my speech, and also machine learning helps devices to get smarter and smarter the more they use the platform. That's what we call collaborative filtering, where a system actually takes user feedback and uses that to improve algorithms as we go. We also see it in things like visual recognition, taking photos of products, as well as route planning and optimization for salespeople as they go about their day. So this is all historical AI. But now we come to the new frontier, and that's generative AI. And this is the heart of the content that I'm going to present to you today. And if you, for example, look at the first prompt that I asked, I went onto Chat GPT and asked Chat GPT to describe what it is. And Chat GPT came back with a very conversational sentence that explained exactly what it did. And you can see here it's trained on this, what we call a large language model, and it assists with tasks, answers questions, and engages in dialogue. So this has only been around for about a year, and at least in the mainstream. And it's evolved amazingly over the course of the year, to the point where I would say on a recent poll that we did, around about 60 to 70% of folks use ChatGPT at least twice a week as part of their day-to-day activities. Brian, looks like we've got a little bit of feedback on the line. If you could mute one of those callers. That sounds a little better. Thank you. Yes, so what is generative AI? Well, I'm sure you're all familiar with ChatGPT, and OpenAI was one of the pioneers of building what we call a large language model, and which helps take a lot of information, and using neural networks, it starts to understand that information and generate content and get smarter and smarter. What OpenAI did brilliantly was expose their platform to the open world, make it free, so that it actually now the usage is now skyrocketing how intelligent and how accurate its content is. Of course, there's other areas, other companies that are in this arms race, such as Meta, Amazon, and Google. And what we've understood, what we've seen, is based on the amount of financial investment in this area, there is no question that generative AI is here to stay. Absolutely, with any type of technology that's received this amount of investment, it's pretty safe to guess that all of this is here to stay. And not only have we seen different applications like the ability to generate graphics, generate code, create videos, but we're also seeing a whole new ecosystem of tooling and definitions, and even job roles, such as what we call prompt engineering. And this is a job role now. There's actual prompt engineers whose sole job it is to come up with the prompts that AI uses in order to generate its content. So the human aspect becomes less in the actual doing, but more in the directing. And that's, again, something I'm going to walk through today as it comes to sales within distribution. So what are the areas I'm going to walk through today? Well, first of all, it's the content creation. I'm going to show you a demonstration of how we automatically generate email messages, text messages to customers, how we can create a chatbot and a virtual assistant on an e-commerce website that's going to replace some of the menial work that sales teams do. We're going to use something called sentiment analysis, and that's a review of, for example, your customer communications via email to pick up on themes, overarching themes such as the customer's general health or what their sentiment looks like. And then finally, I'm going to show you examples where we can actually train and coach your sales team, not only to enforce the sales processes that you currently have within your environment, but also to suggest improvements and suggest ideas for how to broach each individual customer communication. A lot to cover today, so let me jump straight in. Before I get to the demonstration, there's obviously a lot of vagueness around a topic as new as generative AI. And some of the gotchas and warnings are what I'm going to point out right here. First of all, privacy and security is a huge warning. Any any time where you're sending or giving any kind of personally identifiable information becomes not only a risk or a liability from a legal perspective, but also from a competitive perspective. We certainly don't want to be giving these large language models data pertaining to our customers so that they can that information can be used by our competitors. So a huge area that I'm going to talk about extensively today. Secondly, there's this inaccuracy, or what we call these hallucinations, where ChatGPT sometimes just generates content or imagines information. There's a very famous legal case where a paralegal was putting together a brief and asked ChatGPT to summarize something. ChatGPT invented a historic legal case and brought it in, and this was submitted as evidence, and the judge looked at it and questioned where this came from. It turns out ChatGPT invented a historical case. So while it's an evolving technology, it's certainly not there yet and certainly requires some human intervention. Laziness is obviously an issue, and I'm going to talk through that today, where we at Web Presented believe that ChatGPT is great for conversation or thought starters, but certainly not a replacement for doing work and analyzing and assessing the risk of what we're putting out there. And then finally, and this is a very important part, but the fact that ChatGPT can generate what we call impersonal communication, or communication that is obviously AI generated. What we're seeing even in the last year is that individuals are becoming more and more prickly when it comes to sensing that they're being talked to or content is generated by artificial intelligence. And that then can create a risk from a sales perspective, because it turns people off and it actually can damage reputations. And I mentioned at the beginning that I coach soccer. There's a funny or not so funny in some case story here in Ohio. You'll see here our local newspaper generated some AI content about a soccer game or football game around a game that happened by simply looking at box scores and trying to come up with content that fit that. And the general consensus was that is horrible. Nobody wants to read AI generated content that they could just as easily have looked at a simple box score. So don't try and con people. Don't try and rip people off when it comes to pretending things are written by humans when clearly it's written by AI. In other words, don't do that. Okay, so let's put it all together then. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what Web Presented's done. Like I said, we're a CRM software provider. We have a standard CRM product that's been around for around about 15 years, that's got a huge amount of adoption among wholesale distributors. But we've generated a new app, and it's called Playmaker, and it can actually exist outside of a CRM purely as a sales enablement tool. And our Playmaker tool offers suggestions and recommendations using generative AI to help salespeople go about their day. So that big, long list of cluttered list of tasks that they have on any given day, Playmaker is going to go ahead and make that easy, condense it into a simple, fun, gamified experience that salespeople are going to use. And I've got some supporting data to show you the efficiency and the effectiveness of this at the end of it. But before I show the demo, I'm just going to talk a little bit about content. Where do we get all of this content from? How do we train our large language model on your business to help it understand how best to communicate with customers and basically feed it background? Well, Web Presented as CRM, not only do we interface very, very closely with your Infor backend system, we use OpenAI and Chat GPT inherently within our platform. But we pull data and we synchronize data with not only your email and messaging and Teams platforms, we synchronize with Google Maps, marketing platforms, phone systems, your BI and reporting tools, as well as your e-commerce website. So there's a lot of different areas that we're going to suck in content in order to generate content to help your sales teams. So let's put it all together and let's give you a live demonstration of how this all works. So next thing I'm going to do is show you a simple dashboard. This is our CRM platform on the web. And for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to show you this from the perspective of Vic Aldridge. And Vic is a salesperson who's typically runs a book of business. He's got about 100 different accounts that he's responsible for managing and dictating all those activities that we talked about before. But importantly, we have to feed Vic with direction, and we have to feed the OpenAI model with direction. So one of the biggest areas of direction that we can feed to salespeople is setting them targets. And you can see here, Vic has two different targets. He has a target on the equipment side of the business, so in other words, selling large equipment. And he also has a target or a budget on the consumable side, that repeat type purchases that start to feed one another. So the equipment, people that buy the equipment typically also buy the services, the consumables, and then vice versa. If you establish a base of folks who are buying your consumables, the next time they need equipment, they'll typically come to you. So it's a virtuous cycle, and it's important that we make sure Vic has a balanced portfolio of sales within his customer base to attain both targets. So any given day, Vic can open up his dashboard, and simply by looking at his target data, married up against invoice data that comes out of your ERP platform, so out of Cloud Suite or SXE, or whatever your ERP is, we can simply see how Vic's performing. Nothing unusual so far. No AI has gone into that. It's a simple report that shows us how Vic's performing. But Vic can immediately see himself that he's doing great on the equipment side of the business. He's actually over his budget already. But on the consumable side, that's where he needs to focus his attention. So this is where we start to feed the AI language model. We start telling the AI model, okay, when Vic logs in, we need to start recommending activities that are most likely to increase his consumable sales, because that's the area that's missing currently for the current month. So not only can AI go out and generate opportunities and activities. We have connectors to things like Dodge Report for those of you in the construction and surrounding industries. We have integrations to tools like Zoom Info or Google Business or Seamless AI that are going to be able to pull in contact information and opportunity information, business information for new target prospects in Vic's territory. But we can also mine existing customer data based on sales history. And what our system has done using AI is ranked all of Vic's customers. So Vic has a book of business, and all of Vic's customers have been ranked based on which customers are most likely to close the gap in this consumable target. So however Vic's performing, the AI is going to start finding activities and opportunities and stoppages and trends and new business ideas for Vic within the area that he most needs attention. So as you can see here, if I scroll down, not only are we going to start presenting customer opportunities, we're going to start building out things like any cost changes that are necessary, any emails that we believe we should be sending out, as well as any quotes expiring, etc. So a lot of pieces and parts to tie together. I'm going to continue through Vic's day. So Vic's going to take a look at the number one customer on his list, and here it's Transcend Technology. And that's the customer that the AI believes is in most need of attention based on the criteria where Vic is currently with his plan. And so you can see here, once we click on Transcend Technology, we're feeding Vic with data along the way, not to turn Vic into a data analyst, but to help him understand why this customer needs attention. I can see here, generally the health's pretty low. The velocity is in decline, and specifically the frequency score. So based on when we would have expect this customer to reorder, this customer has dramatically slowed down its orders. And particularly on the consumable side of the business, which Vic is chasing right now, order stoppage is a critical piece that's going to help us to maintain that flow of consumable type orders. So Vic's understood the landscape of this customer. He's now going to start digging into what specific products we're going to recommend selling to this particular customer. So now once we drill into the suggested products for this customer, I can now start seeing, okay, what are the products that this customer has stopped purchasing based on a rolling 12-month average. And I can start actually highlighting these items and building out a quote or building out an email to the customer that's going to start offering suggestions for this purchase. I can also see, based on purchase history, what are the types of products that this customer should be purchasing that they're currently not purchasing. So just like if you go on Amazon.com and it knows that you've bought certain items, if there's items that other customers are ordering at the same time, but this particular customer is not ordering, then it's going to make recommendations on how to on what items to sell. So for example, here, if you look down and we can see that this customer ordered a lot of these aluminum panels, but guess what? They've not been buying this paint that is used to paint the panels. Well, that's a great example of some products that are consumable products that we're going to start looking to Vic to drive sales for this particular customer to start buying these items. We know there's probably a need, so it's a high probability play. And so now Vic can immediately highlight those items and immediately build out a quote based on this customer's current pricing, based on recommended pricing. I'll talk about pricing in a moment, and start turning this into a revenue generating opportunity. So again, the AI that drives the decisions on what to purchase, I can, and Vic's simply controlling this, and he can now even send this quote to the customer with a pre-populated Chat GPT generated cover letter, and I'll get to that point in a moment. But he can also generate an order directly from this if the customer approves. So you can see here that we're immediately turning AI into revenue generating opportunities. So let's take one step closer look at this. So you'll notice here that we have these green prices, and pricing optimization is a huge area of opportunity for many of the hundreds of distributors that we work with. And so if I open up any one of these line items, let's take a look at this first line item. You can see here that we've strayed Vic away from the typical, what we call that cost plus pricing, where Vic's going to, offer them maybe a 15% margin rate at a given, based on a given cost for a given product. That is nowhere near the most efficient way of pricing. So we're going to start using AI to find trends in customer purchases to derive the elasticity, the price elasticity for this customer, for this given product, and start coming up with what we call price band recommendations. So we can see here for the target price for this customer, for this product, is $131. We're abstracting the whole cost plus what's the margin on this particular item away from sales rep, so he can start just using AI to start increasing his margins as necessary. Now, if you really do want to see what the margin looks like, he can come down in here and understand, okay, we're actually working on a 38% margin for this item. But the point here is that we're trying to move salespeople away from that cost plus mentality, again, using AI. Some of the factors that go into this pricing not only are understanding if this product is a core product, whether it's highly visible to this customer, what the customer's segment is. In this case, they're an industrial customer, so typically that would impact the pricing, as well as what we call a haggle index. How frequently does this customer talk us down? And if so, do we need to start with a higher price because we know this is going to start coming down to us? So many factors that go into generating what the optimal price is for this customer. And you'll notice if I move this down to a 25% discount, now we've got a red section here that Vic we can either request approval if you want to put in an approval process, or Vic's simply going to have to dismiss a warning, say, realize this is a suboptimal price, add a justification comment, number of quantity maybe they're ordering, and then we can keep moving. The goal is not to slow Vic down, but to help him get the highest margin, the best prices, the most acceptable prices by the customer, and generate as much sales as possible. Now, as Vic's building out this cart, again, using AI, we can start building out product suggestions. So we know that this customer has 3 items in their cart. It's all paint right now. What better way at this point to cross-sell or upsell an opportunity than to start recommending other items to the customer? So when Vic's talking with this particular customer, they're buying these 3 items of paint. Vic can say, hey, we've got this new paint remover that's really great at removing paint. Typically always need it when you're applying this kind of paint. Why don't you go ahead and add one of those items to your order as well? So we're building out more items to the order, and we're adding that to the quote as we go along. Great way of generating opportunities adding out our orders and boosting those sales. Okay, so let's take it one step further. And I've shown you a sort of a day in the life of Vic as our salesperson. And now I'm going to show you how we can use AI to start analyzing customer relationships. So not only have we, understood immediate direct needs to help Vic to get to his goal, but a big portion of what we talked about at the beginning, or what I showed you in that opening chart, was the ability to manage customer relationships and understand account management. So if I click on this particular customer, what you're going to see is a typical CRM screen. But given the fact that we've got a lot of emails from this customer, and we synchronize with Office 365 or Gmail to bring in email content, and also tied to contact learning AI tools, like I mentioned before, Zoom Info or OpenAI, we can start, or even to LinkedIn Sales Navigator, we can start building out organizational structure for our given customers. So I can understand who are the folks that we need to be talking to, and do I have a relationship with each of these people within the organization to help me to break into this and make sure there's no unpleasant surprises as I get working with this particular customer. So again, not only building out the organizational structure, but we can also use a combination of AI from reading through emails and generating that sentiment analysis. We can start understanding who are the key players within this organization. Who are the folks that we communicate frequently with? Who are the folks that have the different roles within the organization? And what is our relationship status with those individual folks? So again, right now we're in beta, we're prototyping some of our sentiment analysis. So a portion of this currently in our existing application is manual. So Vic would come in here and simply specify that relationship status as green, yellow, red. We do have a working prototype where we're starting to understand from email content what the relationship status is with each individual person. And I can also start deriving what the conversational tone is. And this is really important because later on, I'm going to start generating content to some of these people. And it's important that that content is positioned in a tone that is going to be in line with what this individual how they typically communicate. So again, we're breaking down attributes of communication and understanding how to communicate with these different individuals at the account. Very, very important when it comes to start generating content and start understanding how best to communicate with these folks. Really important for distributed sales teams. If you guys have teams of multiple folks reaching out to different customers, then this is all collaborative information that you can use together. So let's now talk a little bit about generating that content and sending that content on to our customer. So what I'm going to show you next is our mobile app. And this is our mobile concept. It's called Playmaker, I mentioned at the beginning. And this is an area that's undergone a huge amount of development in the last year or so. And it extensively uses Chat GPT and OpenAI to build out content that we're sending to our customer. So when Vic's out in the field, when Vic wakes up in the morning and he's contacting his customers, there's going to be lulls. There's going to be times in the day where he's thinking, how am I going to, what should I do next? Should I follow up email? Should I reach out proactively? Should I do some prospecting? What day of the week is it, etc. So as you look, when Vic opens up his mobile phone, and this is actually my mobile phone that we're looking at right now, you'll see Vic here has an option for Playmaker. And this is our mobile app that Vic's going to use to grow his sales. So when he clicks on time to play, it's going to present an opportunity to Vic. It's going to say, okay, this particular customer here is 45 days overdue from their order. Typically, they order every 12 days. It's been 2 months since they've ordered. We would have expected to see an order right now. So what should you do? And you'll notice here that the AI has generated keys to a successful play. Now, I talked about prompt engineering. You as a sales management team can start giving prompts and start suggesting how your team should react to some of these particular situations. But you can see here directly from his mobile phone, Vic has the opportunity to either act on this or decide to decline it. And just like some very popular dating apps out there, Vic can simply swipe this play to the left if he wants to reject it, or swipe it to the right if he wants to add this to his queue. So let's go ahead and add that one to the queue for later. Immediately, Vic's presented with another opportunity. This one, we have a cross-sell opportunity. The customer's buying a lot of one particular type of product. Here's a product that we believe is going to have a great impact on this particular customer. So again, we can start offering suggestions. I'm going to go ahead and reject that one, onto the next opportunity. All generated by AI. Here's an opportunity to grow the share of wallet for a specific customer. We can see here that they, in the processors product category, we would have expected this customer to be spending 16% of their spend in that category. This customer is spending nothing, so they're probably getting that from somewhere else. So let's go ahead and add that to our list. And then finally, what we're looking at here is an example of a quote that Vic sent out 82 days ago. It was a pretty decent sized quote, $33,000. Typically, we've got a good conversion rate of quotes with this customer. Yet this particular quote has not yet been converted to an order. And we know that because we hooks into the ERP platform. So what are we going to propose Vic do? If Vic decides he wants to act on this right now, all he's going to do is swipe up. The system is automatically going to look into who the contact is, who the customer is, what the conversational tone is with this customer, and it's going to generate an email to this customer directly from Vic using the tone, using the keywords, and it's automatically going to present content. All Vic needs to do is quickly scan through this email, make sure that that looks good, and then hit send. A huge amount of time savings and a huge amount of opportunity that Vic otherwise would not have got that he currently does. Okay, I'm going to pause for breath. I'm going to quickly just wrap up this section with